All I ask for is the same opportunity any other person gets. I live in a democracy. There's justice for all, not for some.
Life in America in the 1940s was characterized by segregation. The U.S. Supreme Court's 1896 decision in Plessy v. Ferguson was still the law of the land, separate but equal. The North was more integrated than the Jim Crow South, but not by much. Baseball, America's pastime, was no exception. Organized baseball in the early 1940s was rigidly segregated. White players played in Major League Baseball. Black players were relegated to the Negro Leagues. Both social and economic considerations contributed to the separation of white and black ball players. Many white owners, players, and fans felt that blacks were inferior, both as people and as athletes. One MLB executive, Branch Rickey of the Brooklyn Dodgers, is credited with changing the Jim Crow policies of baseball by famously signing Jackie Robinson to a contract that allowed Robinson to play for the Dodgers at the start of the 1947 season. But the stage was set for this celebrated event and for the subsequent full integration of baseball by a trio of baseball men with ties to Cleveland, Ohio. This trio was led by Bill Veeck, who sought to integrate baseball for good. Before Bill Veeck was even associated with the MLB, a young pitcher dominated the Negro Leagues from the mound. Leroy Robert Page, better known as Satchel Paige, started off his Negro League career in 1926 with the Chattanooga Black Lookouts. As a youngster, he earned both money and his nickname by carrying bags, or satchels, for passengers at a railroad station near his home in Mobile, Alabama. As Larry Tye writes in his book Satchel, thus was born the most celebrated sobriquet in sports.
Black ball itself was very different from Major League ball. The Negro League baseball always played at a faster pace, more daring, more base stealing, more fancy throws etc. to throw someone out. Why would you throw somebody out straight and overhand if you can throw it behind your head, behind your back, through your leg?
And Satchel Paige was the biggest attraction in the Negro League.
And he was a notorious trash talker. Right, out of that African tradition, you trash talk. Oh, why are you bringing that bat up to the plate? It ain't nothing but wood.
Paige is perhaps most famously known for his bravado antics during the game.
Now, there were times when they'd be barnstorming and he would tell the outfield just to sit down or come on in. He's like, I'll strike out these guys.
Paige's antics drew crowds, while his skill made white owners, players, and fans question the idea that black players were inferior. In his storied Negro Leagues career, Paige pitched close to 1,300 innings and had 1,170 strikeouts, while giving up only about 1,000 hits. His talent was so obvious that, as Donald Spivey put it in his book, Paige became the poster child for the wrongs of segregation and color restrictions in America's favorite pastime. The Communist Party and trade unionists mentioned Paige so often in their broadsides arguing against discrimination that the FBI conducted surveillance on Paige for a decade. Paige attracted attention wherever he pitched, and that attention helped chip away at baseball's color barrier.
That he was the guy who brought to the attention of cynical white reporters and a racist white-dominated country, he brought to their attention the segregated world of Negro baseball in a way that eventually led to that world being integrated.
Larry Doby had a much shorter career in the Negro Leagues. Doby played for the Newark Eagles from 1942 through the middle of 1947. Although he took time off to serve in World War II, Doby managed to hit .304 with 100 hits, 8 home runs, and 60 RBIs in 329 at-bats for the Eagles. In 1942, Bill Veeck tried to buy the Philadelphia Phillies, hoping to stock the Phillies with black players. As Donald Spivey said, Veeck was progressive, far beyond the mainstream of organized baseball. But baseball wasn't quite ready in 1942, and its commissioner steered the Phillies' sale to another buyer. And then, in 1947, Veeck signed Larry Doby to the Indians, making Doby the first black player in the American League.
Larry Doby doesn't really get the credit he deserves for being the second guy. Being first is a big deal in America, American culture. And that's to take nothing away from Jackie Robinson, but everything Jackie Robinson had to go through, Larry Doby had to go through.
But I think Larry had a little bit tougher of a time acclimating because, again, mid-season, teams fighting for a pennant, all of a sudden he appears. And people were wondering why he needed to do that.
Veeck didn't stop with the Doby signing. In 1948, he signed the great Satchel Paige, making Paige the first black pitcher to pitch in the MLB. That year, Paige went 6-1 with an ERA of 2.48, one of the best in his career. Doby also had a tremendous 1948 season. He got 132 hits in 121 games. Doby had 23 doubles, 9 triples, 14 home runs, and 66 RBIs. His batting average was .301, one of the highest on the team.
Do I think that Bill Veeck's decision to acquire Satchel Paige and Larry Doby was right at the time? Absolutely.
The right move. I mean, he wanted to win, and he signed the best guys available, and it just so happened that Larry Doby was available, and he was black, but didn't stop Veeck from signing him.
But I would tell you also that both Branch Rickey and Bill Veeck, while they thought of this as a wonderful thing historically that needed to be done, they were still trying to win.
With the help of Doby and Paige, the Indians made it to the World Series, where Doby became the first black player to hit a home run and Paige the first to pitch in a World Series. The Indians won the series in 6 games, beating the Boston Braves and weakening Jim Crow. Satchel Paige, Larry Doby, and Bill Veeck all affected the course of history. Paige's pitching mastery in the Negro Leagues helped people envision a black player succeeding in the MLB, thus paving the way for Jackie Robinson. With Veeck's help, Paige and Doby broke major league barriers. Their success on the field in 1948 changed the way people thought about the races working together.
And things did not unravel because you had more than one man of color on your baseball team. That people could coexist and they could fight for a common goal, and that was to win a championship, which they did in 48. So all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, this can work.
Following the success of the 1948 Indians, the percentage of black players in the MLB took off. According to the Society for American Baseball Research, there were no black players in the MLB in 1946. By 1956, baseball consisted of 10% blacks. By 1965, 20% blacks. And by 1986, 28% blacks. Today, Major League Baseball consists of 30% black players. The historical importance of these men is not limited to their impact on the game of baseball. It is much more than that, because baseball is much more than a game. It is America's pastime. Martin Luther King Jr. recognized the link between baseball and civil rights.
And who was at the forefront of fighting for civil rights for everybody in this country, not just a select few, is the one who points back to the integration of baseball as being vitally important to the cause.
For their achievements on the field, Paige and Doby were inducted into the MLB Hall of Fame. For what they meant to civil rights, both were inducted into the Ohio Civil Rights Commission's Hall of Fame. Paige and Doby are still remembered. After Doby's death in 2003, President George W. Bush said, "Larry Doby was a good and honorable man, and a tremendous athlete and manager. He had a profound influence on the game of baseball." Doby's number 14 jersey was retired by the Indians in 1994, and a statue honoring him will be completed in 2015. Paige, too, continues to be honored. ESPN recently called Paige the most famous Negro League player. The Miami Marlins honored Paige by wearing their throwback jerseys from 1956 with a commemorative patch bearing Paige's number. What Paige and Doby did on and off the field, with Bill Veeck's help, for baseball, for integration, and for civil rights will never be forgotten.